Before the mid-20th century, mapping human evolution was largely an exercise in relative guesswork. Without a way to measure the age of the Earth itself, scientists could only order fossils based on the layers of soil they were found in, never knowing exactly how many thousands or millions of years separated them. That changed with the geochronological revolution. Geologists Curtis and Evernden realized they could use the steady, radioactive decay of potassium into argon within volcanic ash to create a high-precision calendar. Because volcanic layers often bracket fossil-bearing dirt, they could finally put a numerical timestamp on human origins. In 1959, Mary Leakey discovered the Nutcracker Man skull in Tanzania's Olduvai Gorge. It was the perfect candidate for this new method, as the fossil was encased between distinct layers of ancient volcanic tuff. By analyzing the crystals in that ash, researchers established an absolute age of roughly 1.75 million years. This single date pushed the accepted timeline of human evolution back by over 1 million years, grounding speculative history in hard physics. This literal first date transformed our understanding of our roots. It proved that human evolution wasn't a single straight line, but a complex branching lineage where multiple different species lived and evolved at the exact same time. Securing these dates allowed biologists to look at physical changes in the fossils, like the closing gap in body size between males and females, to model a behavioral shift. They began to track when our ancestors transitioned from the aggressive competition seen in most great apes towards stable, long-term pair bonding. This transition was likely fueled by a change in diet. While early hominins spent hours each day chewing through low-calorie, abrasive roots and nuts, the later genus Homo targeted lipid-dense fats and meats that provided a massive caloric surplus. Less energy spent chewing fueled larger brains, requiring longer childhoods, making provisioning partners necessary. This extra support allowed human infants to wean in 2.5 years, half the time of apes, shortening birth intervals to raise multiple dependent offspring. Evolutionary theorists suggest this need for bond testing led to the development of subconscious biological signals. The act of romantic kissing, for instance, may have evolved as a mechanism for partners to chemically assess each other's health and immune compatibility through saliva before committing to a long-term pair bond. Today, these ancient neurobiological mandates still drive our behavior. Systems like dopamine and oxytocin, which strongly regulate attraction and attachment, function as the chemical glue designed to keep parents together long enough to ensure children survive. These biological drives for connection eventually crossed species lines. As different groups of hominins expanded across the globe, the genetic record shows that when long diverged lineages met, they often interbred. The earliest known example occurred 250,000 years ago. An early wave of modern humans migrated into Eurasia and encountered Neanderthals, leaving a small but permanent genetic signature in the Neanderthal genome. A second encounter took place 100,000 years ago in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. An extinct group of modern humans who had left Africa long before the main migration interbred with the local Neanderthal population. This genetic exchange was highly localized. While we see modern human DNA in this specific Altai Neanderthal, it is completely absent from Neanderthal populations in Europe, suggesting these dates were isolated regional events. These discoveries show that ancient human species were not closed systems. Even after hundreds of thousands of years of separate evolution, their history was defined by frequent intimacy and genetic admixture. Over millennia, these biological drives for proximity evolved into symbolic cultural expressions. We see this most clearly in how ancient communities chose to bury their dead, often preserving relationships in stone and soil. The lovers of Valdaro were found in a 6,000-year-old Neolithic tomb. Because there was no evidence of trauma, archaeologists believe the community deliberately arranged the couple in this embrace after they died, choosing to visualize their bond for eternity. Other burials capture moments of sudden tragedy. The Hassanlu lovers were found in a grain bin where they likely hid during a military raid 2,800 years ago. They died of asphyxiation, their skeletons preserved in a final gesture of mutual comfort. However, interpreting these burials requires caution. The lovers of Modena were discovered holding hands in a late antique grave, which led many to assume they were a romantic couple. But dental peptide analysis, which can identify sex-specific proteins in tooth enamel, proved that both individuals were biological males. This shifted the interpretation from a romantic union to one of deep fraternal or military companionship. From the radiometric dating of ancient ash to the genetic signatures of hybridization and the preservation of intimate burials, the record of our origins is consistent. Our history is not just one of survival, but of a persistent, multi-layered drive for connection.